My guest tonight is my very dear friend, Moongirl, Sarah Garcia. She and I met in Vegas at Unity last year in December um, in a bathroom. And I think I discussed this about Michelle Roos as well. The bathroom was the hotspot for all of the hangouts in the casino for the sensitives because the energy was so intense. We were all just exhausted. So I met Moongirl and Glenda Dawson sharing a chaise lounge in a bathroom at the MGM Grand Casino Conference Center. So we were all so tired. We didn't really get to know each other very well. We were really in there trying to just recuperate. And so fast forward a couple of months, I get asked to chair the metaphysical committee for World's Largest Ghost Hunt. And Glenda at the time was the co-chair. And then Glenda needed to take care of some other things. So she stepped away, and I asked Moongirl if she would be willing to step in as my co-chair because she has so much experience in the paranormal field. I mean, this girl is a paranormal investigator. She's an incredibly gifted sensitive. She's got just about as many clairs as you can come up with. I've got her bio here. So let me give you some of that information. She is a psychic medium. She discovered abilities and has been connecting with spirits since she was a child. Her abilities include clairvoyance, which is the gift of sight, clairaudience, which is the gift of hearing, clairsentience, the gift of feeling, clairempathy, the gift of feeling others' emotions, claircognizance, gift of knowing, clairgustance, gift of taste, clairaudience, gift of smell, and clairtangency, gift of being touched. She's also a gifted empath. She's also an incredible divination reader. She does tarot, and she does all kinds of different, more obscure divination practices that I find absolutely fascinating because they're just not things that you see all of the time. So it really brings a different spin to how sensitives get their information, how they're interpreting that information, what tools they rely on to interpret that information. And she uses things like bone, shells, tea leaves, runes, toothpicks, crystals. So she covers just a huge spectrum of different types of divination tools that she has used throughout her life to tap into spirit. So she's also an actress. She does, I believe, some directing as well. And she has become a very dear friend of mine. I've leaned on her quite a bit the last couple of months, and we've gotten to know each other really well. So without any more word rambling from me, my friend Moongirl. Hello.
Hey. I love Erin, first of all. She's amazing and she's super talented. I'm just so happy that we became friends.
Me too.
We're good friends. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on. That's what I love about being able to do this is, you know, we get to bring all these fabulous people that we know on to talk about whatever the hell we want to, which is great.
Yeah.
You know? And we're all into the same stuff. We're all in the same like merry band of weirdos. And so
we are the weirdos, sure.
We are. And I love it. You know, in the South, they say we don't hide our weird. We just put it out on the porch and give it a sweet tea.
Yeah.
I don't know about Texas. Texas is probably similar because you're still in the South.
South Texas.
You know, South Texas. Our girl is in Texas. So welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. So
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. First things first, let's get into the same question everybody asks. I think is so important because, you know, all of us not all of us were born into our abilities or knowing them at an early age. And so for somebody like me who started really late, it's always fascinating to talk to somebody who has always had these abilities because these are just things that a lot of us as adults are learning where these are things that are just innate to you. They're second nature to you. And so if you want to give us as much of your kind of how you figured this stuff out, you know, when you started dealing with this kind of stuff and how it kind of pushed you into doing all the amazing magical things you do now.
Well, I always struggled being a child because I would have a lot of sleep paralysis and astral projection. And being Latina coming from a Hispanic household, and they would be very Catholic, I would tell my mom and family, I'm like, oh my God, I can't move. I feel something on me. They would always tell me, it's a dream, you're dreaming, it's a dream. Or I would tell them I feel something on me, or I would see stuff, feel things, touch, whatever it is. And it got to a point where, you know, they convinced you as a child, but after so many times, you're like, there's no way this is a dream. I'm old enough to know and recognize this is not a dream. I can see things or feel things that other people can't. And it was a long process because they really didn't fully believe me till I was a bit older, really older. I kept seeing this really scary demonic, and there's a big difference between a ghost and a demon, and this was a demonic thing in my room every night. And again, they wouldn't believe me till one day I went to school. My grandma and my mother went to my room. They were attempting to go to my room to put some clean clothes away. And they saw this huge demonic shadow lunge at them.
Oh boy.
And my grandma, being very Hispanic, she always had like holy water. She had like in her boob and so like the little bottles, and she just like, oh my god! And they
Hi,
never
Dios
questioned me
mío.
again.
Right.
They never questioned me again.
That had to be nice, like so validating too. So you're trying to rationalize that as a little child, and that to me, I can't even wrap my brain around that, because like Michelle, who you know quite well, she also gets a lot of the darker side of things. She jokingly calls what usually like what I would get is love notes, like the nice, oh, grandma says hi. You know what I mean? It's more of that kind of connection. I don't really see any of the, darker stuff,
Yeah.
but you do. And so does she. And that's a totally different kind of line to walk. And you've got to be glowing bright yourself as a light to be able to walk that line.
Well, I get both, but it's just very interesting that the first thing I really remember, again, being a small child, is the sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that just comes to mind.
Yeah.
Versus seeing things or whatever. Again, I can't remember as much being 5, whatever, but I would always remember the sleep paralysis. And
Yeah.
it was very terrifying as a child, and trying to convince my parents, look, I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. I felt something on me. I opened my eyes. When I was able to open my eyes, and I saw something, and it was really, really hard to convince them. And I even felt like, oh my God, I'm dreaming this almost all the time. But it was very scary as a child.
Sure.
Not having anybody to confide in, who took me seriously. So that's why it's really important for me to be like a beacon to anyone who's new to spirituality, especially the younger generation, because I know how it feels not to have the support, because I have to do all this for myself.
Yeah.
All these years, and it was intense. And I'm glad that I'm have thick skin, because this was kind of crazy. It was definitely kind of
But that's the thing. I mean, you've always been, when we were doing the committee stuff, I mean, you were always the first one to jump in and offer help and advice. And I think that's so important, because especially with our group that we had, there was a good mix. You had, several sensitives like you that have been sensitives their whole lives. And then there were several of us that were much, much newer. So I know I always felt better having somebody like you with that much more experience and knowledge. And especially as an investigator, I mean, you've done so many different ends of the spectrum, that there's not really anything I couldn't ask you about, I don't think, at this point, that you wouldn't have some knowledge on. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important, that you're willing to offer that to other people, because not everybody is.
When I jumped into this, it just kind of like snowballed into something much, much bigger.
Yeah.
So what really started from that was, of course, seeing things, feeling things as a child. But I always tell people, turning 12 was the turning point, no pun intended. Of course, you're a child when you're 12, but it was really like night and day. I was 11, playing with toys. As soon as I turned 12, this is why I totally believe in reincarnation. I was hit with all these memories, and I did not feel like a child anymore. Yeah. I really didn't. Yeah. So it was really easy to fall into divination work. And back in the day, because I'm 37, so the internet and stuff, was kind of,
that wasn't part of our childhood so much. I'm 43, so yeah, I remember those days.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. And also being a kid, you couldn't really get your tarot cards and stuff. So me and my best friend at the time, Michelle, and I'm still very good.
Nope, I think she froze. Let's see if she hops back on. Let's give her just a second. Moongirl, if you're able to see me, you may want to try and go out and then see if she can come back in. And what we'll do is, once we get her squared back away, we will do some evidence. So she does a lot of her evidence posting and a lot of her social media on TikTok, which I am not a TikToker. So she has a lot of her evidence that she posts on her different ghost hunts and investigation and events that she's invited to straight to TikTok. So she did give us several videos to show, and we'll be able to do that hopefully when she hops back on here in just a minute. She has some internet issues sometimes. But I've always been, since I've gotten to know Moongirl over the last couple of months, I'm constantly kind of blown away by the things she picks up on, how she does what she does, tea readings. I mean, she's been teaching classes lately too on divination practices. So she just does a lot of things. I mean, her tarot readings are absolutely amazing. So we'll give her another minute and see if she's able to hop back on here. In the meantime, while we're waiting to see if Moongirl can hop back on, I figured I could go ahead and talk to you all. Most people who are following Andrea or the Conjuring House